present again. All right. Well, I've got a question for everyone here. How do you explain when some marketing strategies fall flat? When they don't turn out like you expect? Or better, how do you explain why some companies achieve marketing results that seem absolutely impossible? They're astounding, while their competitors, who are doing almost exactly the same tactics, are just okay. For example, remember that little used bookstore online many years ago? I think it was called Amazon. Remember that? How many people use Amazon today? How many people have used Amazon in the past 24 hours? Raise your hand. Yes, that's right. So why is it that they do so much better than their competitors? I mean, when you boil it down, they're just an e-commerce company, right? They have the access to the same talent, the same agencies, access to the same media, the same marketing platforms. What are they doing so much differently? Because year after year after year after year, they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. What are they doing differently? On Monday, I was at another marketing event with a bunch of marketers in the audience, and I asked them one simple question. I said, when you think of marketing, what words and phrases pop into your mind? And it was a big crowd, and I got a lot of noise, a cacophony of noise, if you will. And they were shouting out things like advertising, social media, Instagram reels, email marketing, podcasting, a whole slew of tactics. But not one person, not one said customer. No one said audience. I didn't hear anyone say experience or journey or anything like that. Everything that people were throwing out, all the things that are top of mind when you think about marketing, all of those things, they were all tactics, and they were all just me, me, me. It was like, what am I doing every day to get people to buy my stuff? What am I doing? What are the things I'm doing? Not, is my product or is my service or is my value proposition going to fit into the lives and the everyday journey of my customer? How do I do that? And that's why companies like Amazon are so much different than the competitors, because they are spending $16 billion a year on market research and getting to know their customers and developing products that fit into their lives. They're developing products that work with the mental model of the customer today. And that's what they're doing differently. These guys, they all do it too. When you look at the top dollar amount spent on market research, it's these guys too. The most successful companies, they don't think about tactics as marketing. That comes second. What they think about first are three things. They think about identifying their target audience first and foremost. They think about deeply getting to know them, and then they always be learning. They are constantly doing research, trying to figure out what people are doing and how they're doing it differently today than they did it yesterday. And by the way, it's not a secret. It's not a secret, it's just a mindset shift. It's a foundational mindset shift where first, it's all about the customer. And then, based on knowing all the stuff you know about the customer, you can figure out all the tactics, the right mix of tactics to do. So I want you to imagine for a moment, just picture this for a moment in your mind, the journey of an average car owner. So this is a guy with a sedan, a couple of kids. You know, he drives it regularly. He maybe fills it up with gas. He puts air in the tires once in a while. Maybe once a quarter he gets his car washed. When does this guy get maintenance done on his car? Who knows? Shout it out. When the light comes on, when something breaks. That's exactly right. And when that light comes on, what that resistance and that heart-sinking dread that happens when the light comes on, because you don't know what it means, right? That light comes on, and that guy's like, oh man, I gotta take my car in. I'm not gonna have a car for a day. I gotta call somebody to give me a ride. I gotta explain to people at work why I'm not there. Well, maybe not here. Maybe he can work from his phone in the pandemic. But he's gotta say, it's gonna cost me something, and I don't even know what it's gonna cost me. I don't know. I don't trust them. They're not trustworthy. Right? So all this resistance just to take your car in, just to get your car fixed. There's so much emotionally going on there. And so this client I have, one of my clients, they're trying to fix that. They're trying to say, how do we change the behavior of a car owner? How do we get them to go into the dealership proactively and actually get their car fixed? Like even before something breaks, before that engine light turns on, how do we change behavior and get them to do that? How does that happen? Yes, I understand what that means. That means changing the behavior of every car owner in the world. You know, daily goals. So it's a big task, and they said, okay, well, how does this happen? Well, they have the client I'm working with, they have this device, and it's an Internet of Things device, and it plugs in underneath the dashboard of a car. Okay? And this device, it's in this car, it plugs in under the dashboard, and it was originally intended to find the car on a really big lot, like one of those big car auction lots. It was basically like a locational beacon to find the car when you're at a big auction house like Mannheim, and a used car dealer comes and there's 150,000 cars on the lot, and he says, I want to test drive these 30 cars. They have to find the cars quickly. So that's originally what it was intended for. But let's say that device in that car gets sold with the car. Let's say it goes from the big car lot, it gets sold with the car to the dealership. That device is still in the car when the dealer sells it to a vehicle owner. Now the vehicle owner is driving around, this device is in the car, and it's monitoring all the problem codes and things that are happening in their car. And one day, this average car owner, the guy with so much resistance to taking his car in, he gets a text from his car. And it says, oh, hello, this is your car. It says, hi, my spark plugs, they're underperforming. And you know what? You don't even need to know what spark plugs do, but I'm just gonna tell you that based on where you are in the world, based on the average price of gas, based on the number of miles you drive in an average week, if you continue to drive on these underperforming spark plugs, you're gonna spend an extra $60 over the next 2 months in gas. But the spark plugs only cost $50. It only takes 30 minutes. It's a 30-minute appointment to fix them. Press this button right here to schedule an appointment with your dealership. Now what does that guy do? He's not on the ground going, why? He's not doing that anymore. Now he's like, oh, well, that was easy. I'll just do that. It's only 30 minutes. That's not a big deal. And guess what? I already know the price of it. So basically, we've taken every single little piece of anxiety out of that journey and made it super easy for that person to book an appointment. He didn't have to call the dealership. He didn't have to talk to anybody. He didn't have to press 1 and press 2 for service, whatever it was. He didn't have to do any of that. And he's going to proactively get his car fixed. Congratulations, because if you are that company, you've just changed the behavior of every car owner in the world. By just looking at the experience that the person is going through, your customer is going through, and changing the experience, you can change the behavior. Just imagine the possibilities. If you took your company and you took your customer and you just mapped out their journey and knew every single touch point they were going through along their journey, so you could say, oh, we could change behavior here, we could change behavior here, we could change behavior here, and then you're not having to waste all that money and all those silly tactics to get people to buy your stuff because you don't need to. You don't need to do that. Because people will do it when you change their experience. The other thing we do as marketers, which is kind of, well, it is what it is. It's kind of silly, actually, is that we obsess over 2 points in the journey. We obsess over the moment that a customer meets you, where they see you, and then we obsess over the actual purchase price. But let's go back in the journey even further, and let's say, why don't we pay attention to the awareness of the problem? When somebody says, oh, I have a challenge that there might be a solution for. Not the awareness of your company that's further down in the journey, but the awareness of the actual problem. Let's figure that out. Maybe you could introduce yourself much earlier. And then if we pay attention to that, we pay attention to where they're meeting you, all the competitors they're considering, everything they're learning, we're paying attention to the purchase, and then most companies, they stop. They stop paying attention there. And they don't pay attention to the post-purchase part of the journey. They don't pay attention to the part where somebody is falling off a cliff, becoming not a great customer anymore, no more return customers, because they had a poor experience and they didn't even think to tell you. They're not paying attention to that. So paying attention to the post-purchase is almost just as important, probably more important than paying attention to the actual purchase, the first purchase to begin with. Because getting those repeat customers, I can tell you that's a heck of a lot cheaper to get a repeat customer to buy from you again than it is for new client acquisition. And most companies are losing over half of their customers because of a poor experience, and they don't even know it. How powerful is that? Wow. If you can map a journey, you can change the experience for the customer, and if you change the experience, you change the behavior. You change what they buy, how they use a product or service, their expectations around using a product or service. You can change how they interact with your brand. You can change who they share it with afterwards, and you can change how much they're willing to pay for it. I was working on this product. It's a cell phone case that was a very special cell phone case that protected you against radiation. Cell phone radiation. So it somehow bounced the radiation off the cell phone case and away from your face when you put it up to your face. And the company, they had this really cool technology, but they weren't doing well. They were making mediocre sales. They were spending a fortune on paid ads, and they just really weren't seeing the return that they expected. Well, once we plotted the journey of the customer, we realized they were just positioned in the wrong place because they were standing there comparing themselves to all these other cell phone cases when in fact, what they needed to do was not refer to themselves at all as a cell phone case and start talking about themselves as something in the personal protection industry, comparing themselves to something like airbags or sunblock. We stopped selling them in places with a whole bunch of other cell phone cases. We started selling them in baby boutiques and places like that where people were immediately thinking, oh, how am I going to protect myself and my family? That's what they were thinking when they were buying their purchase. We increased the price by 4 times. We quadrupled the price, and the company quadrupled their revenue within 3 months. So it's all about the positioning. We did not change the tactics. We didn't play with the tactics. We just played with the positioning. And then the tactics would follow. It's really just a shift in mindset. It's a foundational mindset shift where marketing is not about the tactics. The tactics come second. What we first need to do is figure out the heads, the hearts, and the journeys of our customers, and then we can recreate that experience to change their behavior. So how do I know all of this? What makes me qualified to stand up here and talk to you today? Well, I run a market research firm called Bixa, and what we do is literally talk to customers all the time. We're talking to customers, we're interviewing customers, we're surveying customers, we're doing video studies, all of these things, and we're learning about their experiences and their journeys, and then we're helping companies actually figure out how to position themselves and play with their product and their service and their value proposition to fit into the customer's lives, to really make sense for that customer. And I cannot tell you how many companies come to us after wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars in paid ad trial and error, only to realize, once we do this work, that they were marketing to the wrong people. Or they were selling to the right people, but at the wrong point in their journey, when they weren't quite ready to buy. Or they were selling with the wrong messaging. Right people, right time, wrong message. So there's all sorts of different things we can play with, but it all starts with the foundational aspect of understanding your users, understanding those customers. And another reason to do this research right now in particular is because never before in the time, place, history have things been changing so rapidly for our customers. I mean, we are all sitting here with masks on. That is a big customer, well, I'm not, sorry guys. But we are all sitting here with masks on. That's a big customer behavior shift, right? Think of how online grocery has changed and just basic daily tasks that people are doing way differently now than they did 2 years ago pre-pandemic. It's a huge change. People are changing at such a rapid speed right now. And the technology is changing every single day, pandemic or not. The technology is so much different now. I mean, even just, see the first one over here, this first screen, the one in the middle? You guys know what that is? In December or January, if you had said, I'm a B2B service business and I'm looking for more customers, I would have said, you might want to check out this thing called Clubhouse. Now we look at that and we're like, club what? So technologies change all the time. Your customers are changing, what their environment's changing, what they're doing online is changing, and you have to keep up. Now, let's spend the rest of the time we have today talking about how to do that. How do we get that information from our customers? What are some of the modern day research techniques that we're using, because we're not doing in-person focus groups. We're not doing a lot of ethnography where we're going into people's homes and looking at their environments and doing that. So let's talk about what we're doing today that's working. Okay, an oldie but a goodie. In-depth interviews. These work every time. In fact, I would say 95% of my projects that we do start with in-depth interviews because they are so powerful. If you recruit the right audience, you don't need to do hundreds of interviews. All you need is like 10 interviews to really understand what your customer is going through and to form hypotheses about their experience and their journey that you can then take and say, okay, well, now that we have these hypotheses, we're going to test to see if they scale across a larger population with a quantitative survey or something like that. But the in-depth interviews are so powerful. You can do serious segmentation with not that many interviews. This is segmentation of all people who check the news in the United States. It was for a major news aggregator app. And we did interviews. We started with interviews. We moved on to video diary studies later, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. But we started with interviews. And we were able to see there's only really 5 different types of psychographic personas of people who check news. If you really boil it down. You might think there's 100 different personas. There's really only 5. So it's pretty amazing the results you can get just by talking with people. You can also get incredible data to plot the user's journey with the actual phases at the top from awareness to consideration to purchase, post-purchase. This one is an example of the most hated company in the world, or maybe in the United States. What do you think it is? It's not Comcast. It's the IRS. You're right, you got it. It's the IRS. This is a journey map of how people call the IRS. And it starts not when they're actually making the call. It starts when they get the letter in the mail, when they know that there's a problem. When they get that letter in the mail and they see the IRS logo, and they go, oh, there's a problem, and panic starts to rise. And so we immediately have a pain point, right? Just right off the bat, they haven't even opened the letter yet, but they saw the logo. So plotting that journey of every moment of somebody calling the IRS, and we did this through through interviews. We did this by sitting with someone on a Zoom while they actually made the phone call to the IRS. And we watched them do it. It only takes a few interviews to know also if you're marketing to the wrong audience. I'll give you an example from a B2B interview. We were doing these interviews with a company that sold an AI software, and they were absolutely certain that they sold to CMOs and CFOs and CIOs of oil companies and energy companies and like some other very specific industries, banks, very specific industries. And when we started doing the interviews, we found out within 5 interviews that all their marketing had to be readjusted because that was not their target audience. Those were the people that were signing the checks at the end of the day, but who they really needed to be selling to were the data scientists who were using the product and going to their boss and saying, hey, we need this product. And then the CIO or CFO or whoever it was signing off on it. So just a few interviews can get you that data. And I love the sandwich approach where you're starting with the interviews, you're saying, well, you've got a whole bunch of hypotheses. Let's go test them and make sure that they scale across a larger population. And then what happens is that some companies stop and they're like, oh great, we did our interviews and we did our surveys, but you gotta put the extra piece of bread on that sandwich, because what happens in those surveys is that you inevitably learn some new nuggets of information and you're like, oh man, I really wish we had asked that in the interviews ahead of time. So we've gotta then buffer the end of that like a sandwich with another round of qualitative research. The next technique I want to talk about is video research. Now, we were doing this study for a big coffee company over the pandemic, and we said, okay, how are people drinking coffee at home? And so we had them take out their phone over a series of 4 days, and every time they brewed coffee in their home, they would take out their phone and they'd do a selfie video and show us what they were doing. Well, it turned out that of the audience we recruited, 10% brewed coffee in their bathrooms. 10%. It was a huge audience. And it turned out it was this very specific segment. It was moms who were escaping from their children. I kid you not. It was literally moms who wake up in the morning and they go, I just need 5 minutes to myself. Just 5 minutes. That's all I need. And by the time I go to the kitchen, they were selling us, by the time I go to the kitchen, somebody needs to be fed, somebody needs their homework looked at, somebody's running around without pants. My day has started, chaos has begun, and I just can't, don't have 5 minutes to myself. So they were sitting in their bathroom, next to their bedroom, and drinking their cup of coffee, standing there by the sink, drinking their cup of coffee and scrolling through their news feed or scrolling through social media or something. They just needed 5 minutes to themselves. If we had done in-person ethnography pre-pandemic, which is probably what we would have done, we would have never gotten this insight. Because when you go into somebody's home, do you think they're going to take you into their bathroom at 6:30 in the morning? No. They're going to lead you in their kitchen because they legitimately have another coffee maker in their kitchen, and they're going to be like, yeah, this is our primary coffee maker. Let's talk about that. So without these types of video research, we would have never been able to get those environmental moments and those really deep insights. Here are a bunch of reasons to use video research, but one of the things that's really amazing is the linguistic data that you'll get, because people will sit in front of a video and they'll talk to you for 10 minutes. And you will hear their exact word choices, their language. You know exactly what they're searching for or what they're looking for and how they describe you versus the competition or whatever they're doing. You get those really critical linguistic pieces of data that you can then use in your messaging. We use the data for video diary studies, so diary studies along a sequence of basically video studies. This is an example of someone who is introducing us to their small breed dog. There's two videos here. She's gonna introduce us to the small breed dog in the first video, and in the second video, she's gonna show us how she buys pet food for that small breed dog.
So here is my dog. She is a little Yorkie poo. She is so cute, and she's 13 years old. I've had her since 8th grade, and she's so adorable. Like, her personality, she still acts like a little puppy. Like if she walks ahead of me, she like stops every so often to look back to see if I'm like still behind her, to make sure that I'm still there. Other than that, she's like really calm. She loves to just like lay down in her little bed. I thought when I first bought this bed, I thought she was smaller, so that's why her bed is like this, but she has another bed downstairs that she also sleeps in sometimes as well. So yeah, that's my little dog.
Okay, and here's how she buys food.
So I'm at the pet store right now, and this is the dog food I like to get for my dog. My dog is older, so her teeth is older and it needs more care, so I use this one. Something I look for in comparison to other dog food is the ingredients. So I'll show you guys the ingredients. So I've heard that if it starts with chicken, then it's real chicken versus something, I don't know, like artificial flavoring of chicken. I've just heard that if it just says chicken straight up like this, that means it's just actual chicken, not necessarily like bones or anything like that. So this is why I always get this one.
When we did interviews with this group, not one of them told us that they bought food for oral care reasons for their older dogs. And then when we actually had them go into the pet store and show us what they bought, a whole bunch of people were like, oh yeah, this is what I buy, and it's because I see the word oral care, because it was right in front of them. So it's not that they're lying sometimes in the interview, sometimes they just don't remember what they do until they're in the situation. So to get this in-environment data, it's really powerful. You can even have people record their screens and show you what they're doing. This was a longitudinal study before Christmas where we had a group of people actually go through and show us how they were shopping for a voice AI system, so Amazon Echo, Google Home, those types of systems. We had them show us how they shopped for them online by recording their screen and walking us through everything. And then we had them we did something we've never done before because of these videos. We had Christmas morning unboxing videos. We got to see them on Christmas morning actually opening these things. Here, let's take a look at, and I have sped up some of this, so that's why you'll see it go fast in spots.
I'm looking for a portable music player for my daughter, and I want it to have, or just to be able to connect to Wi-Fi and play music like it's a speaker. And then maybe she could use it as an alarm clock or something. I'm not really sure if I want it to be able to show like a time, because she already has a clock, but maybe she'll wake up a little bit easier if it's some kind of music that's playing through it. But I really want to take a look at some of these Amazon Echo Dots. Disappointing, tiny size, phenomenal sound. I don't necessarily think it needs to be the best sounding thing, since it's for a 9-year-old girl who isn't necessarily an audiophile. But let's actually take a look at this real quick. So this is geared towards kids, which is great. It looks like it's got, Disney, Audible, Warner Brothers, Barbie, DreamWorks, Nat Geo. Not really sure what that is.
So they're advertising all the things. He doesn't have any idea what that is. He's like, I don't know what they are, but they sound good.
Okay, we're gonna unwrap this special present for you. What do you think?
I like the avocado box. What an Alexa with a tiger on it.
Ooh, what do you think about that?
I like it.
Yeah, what do you like about it?
I like that it has a face of a tiger.
You like that it has a face of a tiger, huh? You think that's kind of cute?
I wonder what the back is gonna look like.
Now they know they need a tail.
Here, why don't you
on the cord.
Yeah.
Here, why don't you do it?
Yeah, I use the scissors.
Oh my God.
Packaging was hard. That was like a 4-minute segment right there.
Where are these back buttons?
Those are the play and pause and turn off buttons, I believe.
How is it going to hook up to Spotify music?
Did you guys hear that? How is it going to hook up to Spotify music? That's what a 9-year-old wants to know about her Alexa. The last technique, and we don't have much time yet, so I'm going to go really fast through this one, is social listening. We can learn a lot about the conversations, from the conversations that people are having on social media in so many different ways. We can learn about audience segments based on how they're speaking about your brand versus other brands. We can even know all the cross-purchase behavior and kind of all the topics that they're looking at and similarities. Based on social listening, we know that, say, for this example, this group of people is likely to like war movies, but not documentary films. Like it gets very specific in terms of what we can find out from their conversations online. We can also know about the share of voice, how much your brand is showing up in their experience versus other brands and your other competitions. So to wrap things up, modern day marketers, they don't just implement tactics. It's not just about the tactics. They build trust, they create value, they serve customers in a new way that fits into their heads, it fits into their hearts, it fits into their journeys. It really fits into their lives and it makes a difference. So I'd love for you to think about this and leave you with this thought. How will you be an Amazon? How are you going to make that difference? How are you going to do that for your company and stand out among all the competitors? How are you going to do that? If you liked what I said today, you want to read my book, you can get a free chapter of InstaBrain by taking your phone out right now and texting the word HI, H-I, to 66866. You'll also be signed up for my email newsletter. Every week I send out tips and tricks and stories, mayhem about things that are happening in marketing. I'd love to see you there. Feel free to reply to any of those emails. I read them all, I reply to them all. And thank you for having me.